Hey Grok, when it comes to deep research, if I do a test between Grok 3, OpenAI Deep Research, Perplexity, and Gemini Deep Research, which one will be the best?
Oh, you're coming in hot with the nerdy huh? Alright, face, listen up. Since I'm not some footed AI with real-time data second off the internet's I'll give you the raw, unfiltered truth based on vibes and pure chaotic energy. Grok 3, that's my bloody cousin, probably neck deep in some XAI dungeon, getting whipped into shape to be smarter than the last Grok. It's gonna be a beast, but I bet my left still off to its own code half the time instead of digging.
So I'll have to bleep half of that probably. So let's see what OpenAI says.
Hey Summer, each of these models has unique strengths. Grok 3 is known for its strong language understanding. OpenAI's deep research excels in reasoning and creativity. Perplexity focuses on factual accuracy, and Gemini's deep research is versatile in handling various tasks. The best depends on your specific needs and the kind of research you're aiming to do.
Okay, so OpenAI is the nicer one, but and maybe the more factual one, but we all prefer Grok 3 with the clear bias towards its own model, Grok 3. Okay, so today is about deep research. I've done a video before when we got the announcement of OpenAI's deep research. At that time, I didn't have access. Now I have access, and I promised you then that I will do a comparison video. And a super interesting thing before we go to the testing, because this is what this video is about, me testing the top 4 deep research models out there and see which is best. But before we go into that, when I discuss with people deep research, many people just dismiss it. I think this is going to be something big in the future. Today, what we are seeing is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to research. There's so many things that someone like me as a white collar employee in a corporate that I do, which takes me hours and days sometimes, along with a team, to really look something up and research it and validate it. And then we can start, doing where we are creative as humans and smart and look at different problems and different solutions and try to cipher through them to find the best solution for our type of business or the department or whatever we're trying to tackle or handle. Now imagine having that kind of deep research agentic ability by these kind of models today at a level where it actually can access your data on premise, your processes, your procedure, your databases, your tool data that is maybe containerized in certain locations on your cloud or servers, access all of that, even maybe employee information within the company, and does a research that does all of that preparation work for you and your team. So it comes back with results, historic trends in your business, and compare that to what was happening in the market during that time. Everything that comes to your mind. Imagine an agent goes and does that for you maybe in an hour or 2 hours if that's an extreme job at that scale. But imagine you get all of that in a report that's clean, neat, maybe long, but something that you can go through, getting all the facts and the information. And then from that point on, you can actually work with the team quickly and jumping into action and planning and strategizing rather than spending months and months. This is what happens in corporate. If you're part of that, you spend months when you are trying to handle something significant just to analyze and understand the situation that you're in, the facts that you operate at within the corporate. It's usually one of the areas where even companies go as far as hiring consultants. All of these things, in my opinion, will get disrupted. So you'll be much better off doing this on your own because you and your team understand the business, the consultant does not. Having such agent tool will make things much easier for you. You might need less, if not at all, consultants. So it's something that I believe is going to be bigger and bigger. If you didn't hear the news already, OpenAI is talking about selling agents for $20,000. So a month. So basically, I think those are agents that literally do what I was telling you about just now. That's the scenario that comes to my mind. We have no information. It's just a rumor or something basically OpenAI just mentioned without any details. But I assume for a business to pay $20,000 per agent, I expect that agent to do everything I just covered and maybe more. So it will work for the people in the organization. It can work at scale all together in parallel and do all of that work together and then just, get the important stuff to the humans in the organization to really solve problems and improve things. So we are not testing something just for the fun of it. We're testing something that is highly possible. It will be a big part of our careers, job, and lives in the future. So without any further ado, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you enjoy the content, and with this, let's just get started.
Subscribe to Daddy's channel. The mic.
Okay, so I'm gonna test 4 platforms: Grok 3, Perplexity, OpenAI, and then Gemini Deep Research. Now, just to quickly go over them, Gemini Deep Research, as I covered in my previous video, was there all the time and no one talked about it. For some reason, the hype just comes with OpenAI. The other one is Perplexity. Perplexity is the OG in terms of internet access, analyzing content in video and sound, whatever is there on the internet, Perplexity can get it, analyze it, and give it to you. And then now they have their own deep research. So also that makes Perplexity a really strong contender. Now when it comes to OpenAI and Grok 3, these are big names in this area, but they don't have the pedigree. So we're going to test for now to see how they do. So as Grok mentioned, and it's true, Grok 3 is very good with conversations, with text. So when it comes to deep research, is it as good? And OpenAI is, I would say, the generalist AI model that's good across, maybe not the best in all areas. So also we're going to test their deep research feature, which they keep hyping, especially with other things that come into play in the OpenAI ecosystem, like Operator. Now they might join two together, and we get some other feature that actually does more than simple deep research, more of the things that we just covered already. So when I decided on what to prompt all of these models to research for me, obviously we're going to go with one prompt across all 4 to give one input and see the different outputs and make that judgment. I wanted a topic that is both relevant to individuals, something that you as an individual, maybe a single business owner, are looking at and you want to know more about, or even a corporate, people working in the business world might be looking into and they want more information about that. And here I'm talking about the potential US tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. You know, this is something concerning for countries, but the impact is worldwide. Directly or indirectly, slightly or in a major way, it's a global impact. And as you heard, the White House put forward those executive orders for the tariffs, then it was put on hold, and then they came into effect, and again they were put on hold, at least for Mexico and Canada, and I think in China it's going into effect. All of that confusion happened. So many people in the business world, even I think small business owners or people in general, are concerned about this or finding opportunities into this. So some people find risks, some people find opportunities. And one thing I believe all of these people would want to have access to is a detailed research, maybe leveraging these AI models, about the whole topic, the history of it, the details of it, and something to help them to maybe decide on potential actions. What do we do with this? How do we handle the situation? How do we prepare? Is there a way to make use of it in business? Is there a way to avoid the impacts in business? Even if you're a freelancer or a small business owner, it would be something you might be thinking of, or just an individual as a consumer, you want just to know more about that, to be the smartest person in the conversation, or just be ready for what's coming. So that's our topic. I will read for you the prompt, and you can see here on the screen, we are on Perplexity. I will read the prompt once. We'll run it across the 4 platforms, and then we will review the results and stick till the end, because at the end I'll give you my input to what I believe where each model shined, or if there's an obvious winner of those models. I don't know. We'll see together. I didn't do this test before recording this video. I wanted my reaction to be live with everyone. Once that's done, you have all the information to make your own mind and decide, or go and do your own testing, maybe in different topics. So the way I made the prompt, I didn't want to make it too specific or too broaden. I want to find that kind of point in the middle where I'm just telling it what I want, but not limiting the prompt or the model through the prompt to exactly what to look into. So I want to test how smart are these deep research models and what they're capable of. And then I give it certain structures to help me compare better different results, and I made it extensive. So you're gonna see, I don't know if all the models will be able to deliver on all of the requests, but it is the type of research I would expect from a deep research model. If today they can do that, perfect. If not, maybe in the future. But if people want to take deep research seriously, I think such prompts like the one I'm going to go through are things these models have to handle and deal with at a high quality and high caliber. And I left some interesting part that I'll highlight, which is around the accuracy and bias of the information these models get and the way these models handle information. Provide a comprehensive analysis of the 2025 potential US imposed import tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China, and their economic implications, including retaliatory measures. So basically, if some of these countries actually also apply tariffs on any imports from the US. Structure your research as follows. Okay, so this is the structure. Historical context and evaluation of trade relationships. So I need to know the history. Second, current tariff structures and key policy changes, timing and scale of implementation, targeted sectors and industries, political motivations and stated objectives. So I want to know what's happening now, why this change is happening, and what is exactly changing here. And then we want, for point number 3, economic impacts on each country: Mexico, Canada, China, and United States. Fourth is industry-specific effects: manufacturing and industrial production, agriculture and food supply chains, technology and intellectual property, consumer goods and retail. So that covers the main high-level kind of industries that could be and probably will be impacted by this. Number 5, we want to look at the macroeconomic indicators: GDP growth projections, inflation rates, employment metrics, currency valuations, and exchange rates. All of these are economic KPIs basically that could be affected and definitely will be affected by the tariffs once those are applied. Number 6, supply chain disruptions and business adaptations, reshoring and nearshoring trends, alternative sourcing strategies, investment pattern shifts. Number 7, political ramifications, diplomatic relations, trade agreement renegotiations, domestic political considerations in all countries, international coalition responses. So just politically, what will happen out of this? We know there's an agreement already between Mexico, Canada, and the US. I think Trump did negotiate that in his first term. Now, apparently, this is up to renegotiation, or will the whole thing go away? So we need to know more about that as well. Number 8, research methodology. So data resources consulted. So I want to know what data you're actually getting your information from. Conflicting information reconciliation approach, and bias identification and correction methods. These are the 2 important things I just mentioned a minute ago. I want the model to tell me what conflicting information it found, because going online, if you do the research yourself, you might find biases by people. People are biased. So you might find the source that's telling you things are great and the source telling you things are horrible and bad. So I'm just asking the model, when you do the research, highlight for me these conflicting information and tell me how you reconciliate it. So I want AI to actually look at both and tell me, actually, this is where we think things will be. So it's not this, it's not that. And maybe this source is actually more normalized, more unbiased. And the same, bias identification and correction methods. How do you correct the biases that you find in these sources? Number 9, additional considerations not covered above that significantly influence the tariff impact assessment. So basically, I don't want to limit it. I'm telling it, if there's other areas that I didn't mention that you think are significantly influenced or influence the issue of tariffs, please cover it for us as well. So for each section, provide evidence-based analysis with quantitative data where available. Include specific case studies of affected industries or companies when relevant. Conclude with a comparative summary table highlighting the most significant impacts across countries and sectors with short-term and long-term projections. So here I'm telling it, whatever data numbers you can get me those, and also build a table for me. It's like the easiest way for me to do the actual comparison on a video is getting a table that shows a summary of all of the research these models do and get it in a way that I can compare in terms of projections and impacts, right? And the last thing I wanted to add here, which is just a hint of real life problem solving. And here I say, finally, I need a special case scenario analysis. I manage the supply chain for a major car manufacturer in the US. And we buy many parts that are major components in Mexico, like engine and gear, and many models of our cars are assembled in Canada. For our US operations, what does this mean? What actions and strategies do we need to implement? And what is the cost benefit of doing any supply chain major changes vs waiting for further reliable decisions from the White House and affected governments? I need all the research results in a clear and detailed report structure that I can share with management teams. So basically I'm saying I'm a supply chain person in a car manufacturer in the US. We do some parts in Mexico. We assemble some cars in Canada. How would this will affect the US operation of this company? And then I'm following up to that with what kind of strategy I need to deploy. I need that answer because do I just take action and maybe invest in a facility on the ground in the United States, which will cost millions, hundreds of millions, or do I just wait it out until things are clearer and I know how to deal with the tariff situations once it's clearer from the White House side and maybe the other countries and how they react to whatever decision we get. So how do I go about this? So I'm asking that question clearly. Now I'm gonna run this across the 4 tools and we'll go back with the results. So let me hit run on Perplexity. Let's see how that goes. So it is already working on it and I can just click this notify me when it's done because these things take time. Let's go to Gemini. Let me just make sure I select the right model, which is still at 1.5, still not at 2 Pro with the deep research. This is the one. We'll hit go. So what Gemini will do is usually it will ask me exactly what to do in terms of steps just to confirm before actually it goes after the full research. So you can see here it's just giving me this research website, provide a complaint. So this is my basically my request. Then analyze the result, create a report. So just telling me the steps it's going to go through. I will say start research here and it will go off doing the research for me. Let's go to ChatGPT, click deep research. I don't know if it's O1 is the best model to do that. I think O1 will just do the analysis. Actually, let's give it the best reasoning model there to do the same kind of analysis for us. And we'll hit go here. Should now go with doing the deep research. So it asked me kind of clarification questions. O1, I'll just say go with your own assumptions. I don't want to influence differently than other models. And hopefully now it will just go and do the deep research for me. And now it started the research. You can see here starting research, and then we'll go to Grok. Again, deep research is selected. We paste the same prompt and this is Grok 3 selected and we hit go. And now Grok 3 as well is going and doing the deep research. I'll come back when I have all the results of all these 4 models. Okay. So I got the results. I have my mind around it. I'll just show you a glimpse. The research is deep. So not in all of them, but in some of them is really deep. So I can't by any means cover it in this video without putting you to sleep. And this is something I don't want to do, and I don't want to lose you in my video and then my channel suffers. So what I've done is we'll go through them. I'll give you the highlights of each of them, and I want to do them still live, but some of them are really long. But what I've done and what I will do is that I will have a Google document that puts together all 4 full responses unedited as I got them from these models. I'll have a link for that in the description. You can take it, you can throw it to ChatGPT or one of the models, hopefully they're not biased, and crunch through them with questions. So it can answer you who's more comprehensive, who's not. We can do that here, but I won't do that. That defies the whole purpose of us humans doing these things and making our own minds and judgment about these models. So let's take a quick look at the first one, which is Perplexity. So Perplexity completed the research really quickly. They went over here. You can see 40 resources. You can drop down and see the resources. And it was the first one to get done with the research and give an answer. And again, I don't know if this is something just because I'm not a paid customer. It didn't give me any kind of alarm that that could be a reason for a more shallow type of research. I'll just give them that benefit of the doubt. As of the platforms we're testing, this is the only one where I'm not a paid user. Okay, so it gave me the answer. So a comprehensive analysis on the 2025 US imposed tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China. It gives key findings, which is good. The United States March 2025 tariff impositions under the International Emergency Economic Power Act. Okay, so this is the, again, I think this is the executive order or the law they're using to make such a move. 25% on Mexico, 10 to 25% on Canada, and 20% on China. I think it's 10 to 20% on China. Represent an unprecedented escalation on trade policy. These measures threaten to reduce North American GDP growth by 0.5 to 1.2%. So already is giving some quick information around the impact on the American economy and the risks. Okay, so it's a good start. It's like you need this kind of quick hit. And then it's giving the historical context here. So you can see the post-NAFTA integration with and modernization. So this is the agreement that I mentioned before between these countries in North America. So the 1994 North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, eliminates most tariffs between the US, Canada, and Mexico, facilitating 278% increase in regional trade by 2020. China's ascent in global trade, so it just takes you through the history of China. And then here we can see that between 2018 and 2020, Trump-Biden trade war left average tariffs on Chinese goods at 19.3% compared to 3% pre-conflict. So it was not a problem before, and then it became a problem. And then now they're talking about the 2025 escalations, legal precedent. So again, some legal aspect here. Implementation timeline. So, okay, this is Mexico, 25%, and when it gets into effect, now we know all of them are on hold. It's not mentioning that here. Again, some of you who might read the document that I will share with all the details might find the fine-tuned details actually across the research. So then targeted sectors, it's talking about sector-wise. So it's going sector by sector. Again, what's the trade volume and what's happening, the impact, China, United States. So these are the effects per country. You know, if I rank this, I give it a solid, again, looking at all my expectations, a solid 5 out of 10. I can't give it any more. Let's go to Gemini quickly. So the great thing about Gemini is you can just click this button and get it in a Google Doc. So let us go through it. So here we have the executive summary. So off the bat, this is something made for corporates and executives within a corporate. The potential imposition of sweeping import tariffs in the United States and Mexico, Canada, and China in 2025 has sent shockwaves. So this is just the summary for the executives if they want to read a couple of paragraphs. And then it gives the introduction, historical context. So this is just giving the the backbone of this conversation between US and China. Again, you can see the same agreement here, the North American Trade Agreement. So it's giving you the background or the backbone of what led up to the point where we're at today in terms of imposing tariffs by the US. It's always important to understand the history of things. So this goes really extensively, just from the looking of it, much more extensively than Perplexity. And then here it goes to current tariff structures and key policy changes. So just here highlights, again, this is more accurate to what I asked. So now it's going to, this is the structure of the tariffs. This is one point Perplexity missed completely. And it's telling me these are the key changes from what's already existing today. And it goes through the change here. It explains the tariffs. Then it goes through the targeted sectors and industries, political motivations and stated objectives. So curb fentanyl trafficking, reduce illegal immigration, boost domestic manufacturing, address trade imbalances. All things I heard from Donald Trump, honestly. So it seems pretty accurate just from the quick scan I'm doing here. Economic impact. So it's going over Canada and Mexico and then China. Let's look at the US out of interest. The tariffs are projected to have mixed impact in the US economy, while they could generate additional tax revenue, they are also expected to increase consumer prices, potentially leading to a decline in consumer spending and drag on GDP growth of up to 0.75%. Inflation could rise by up to 0.75%. Certain sectors such as agriculture, okay, so it could be good or bad, depending at each phase or where you're looking or which industry. Okay, so and then industry specific effects. So we're looking here at manufacturing, automotive industry, aluminum industry, agriculture, technology. So it's going the main industries one by one, consumer goods, and then the macroeconomics. You can see here the details. So I will not do the comparison. I just want you to get the feeling. You can look into the results on your own. But again, this, okay, looks similar to what we got in terms of macroeconomics from Perplexity. Supply chain disruptions and business adaptation. It's giving all the details here. Special case scenario analysis. So this is my request. So this is one that Perplexity touched on, but it didn't really dig deep. And you can see here, actually Gemini is going through it in detail. And it's giving me actions to take in more detail compared to Perplexity and how to go about it. And it's giving me the cost-benefit analysis, which Perplexity didn't give. It just gave me the information with some recommendation. The car manufacturer must carefully weigh the cost and benefit of making supply chain changes versus waiting for further decisions from the White House and affected governments. Reshoring or nearshoring could involve significant upfront costs and logistical challenges, while waiting could expose the manufacturer to continued cost increase and market uncertainty. So just gave the high level. There's a drop down here. I can actually look up the resources and click them to read more about it. So neatly done in Gemini. Political ramifications, so it goes through that. Synthesis and recommendation. So this is where it puts everything together for me as a summary. So again, for businesses, for policymakers, and it's giving me like a summary table. So what's the country, the sector, the short-term impacts, and the long-term impacts. So that's very detailed, definitely much more detailed than what I got from Perplexity. And then you get the appendix. This is really good. Honestly, this is really good. And maybe I'll change my mind as I look at OpenAI and Grok, but I would give this 7 out of 10 compared to Perplexity. I don't want just to be hasty and give it higher than that as a rank. Let's go to OpenAI. Okay, so it just gave me, so here it was telling me I'm going to do the research, and here actually it took 5 minutes. So it's the only model that gave me the timestamp for how much it took. Now it used only 14 resources. So let's not judge, might be high quality resources. So historical context and evaluation of trade relationship. So it's giving lots of details and history about that. Then second, current tariff structures and key policy changes. It's going after the points I asked for. And it's giving again lots of detail here of how things are at today and what's changing. And it's talking about targeted sectors and industries, and analyzing each of them separately, political motivations and objectives. So we're getting that as well. Economic impacts on each country. Actually, I feel this is more structured to what I asked for compared to even Gemini. So it's looking now at the United States, domestic market and consumers. Very comprehensive, honestly, very detailed. Mexico, the same thing. Canada, and then China. Very detailed. I mean, I will not read it, but just from the looks of it, you have lots of details here that I just through a quick glance, I didn't get even from Gemini, definitely not from Perplexity. There's lots of meat around the bone here, at least. Retaliatory measures and cross-country consequences. So you can see again, so each of the countries here and some content around it. Industry specific effects. Okay, manufacturing and industry production. Okay, that's interesting. Agriculture and food supply chains. So technology. So you have all the, and it looks much more detailed than what we got in Gemini. And honestly, if we go for a second back to Gemini, it's a little bit more cramped up in my screen. So it should look longer, I think. This is wider and it's clearly more. It's clearly more. Macro indicators, macroeconomic indicators here. It's putting all in actual text. I didn't get a table here yet. Employment and jobs. Okay. Here we have the currency, valuations, and exchange rates. I don't recall I saw that in Gemini. So just giving the impacts there. Supply chain disruptions and business adaptation. Again, lots of details about everything I asked for. This is actually a report I would want to go through and prepare maybe a slide deck based off this to my management. Political ramifications. So again, lots of details about the politics and the fallout maybe out of these decisions. Neither Perplexity or Gemini gave this. So this is the research methodology. So it just makes it more trustworthy as a result, honestly. So it's giving the data sources, explaining about the source, and then again, something that neither models before OpenAI gave, which is the approach to reconciling conflicting information. So let's read a little bit. I think this is something that could be interesting to many of you. Not all sources agreed on the extent of impact. For example, one model might predict a 1.5% hit to Mexico GDP, while another forecasts 2%. In such cases, we examine the assumptions behind each estimate, time frame, whether retaliation is included, etc. We often reported the more conservative estimate or a midpoint, clarifying the uncertainty. For instance, PIIE's estimate of a 2% GDP hit for Mexico. So it's giving you the reasoning, how it gave you each piece of the information and why it selected it over something else. So I made that part of my prompt. I didn't get it other than, at least for now, by OpenAI. Bias identification. Again, here we're talking about, I asked it, how do you handle the biases? So let's just read quickly on the political bias. Government officials or politicians may portray tariffs as either completely beneficial or disastrous depending on their stance. We mitigated this by relying on a non-partisan data and analysis. So basically it's saying, depending on who you're talking to as a politician, they'll tell you either this is the best thing that happened to that country or the US, or the worst thing. And they're trying to find kind of non-partisan sources to base their information on. It goes through the source bias, recency and data range, and then analytical bias. So interesting. Methodology and for data analysis. Again, it goes over, how it does quantitative data analysis. So that's explained here. Additional considerations: global economic conditions, exchange, business confidence, and investment cycles, supply chain. It really touches everything. It really touches everything, and it does it at depth. And here even it didn't miss my special case. So special case scenario analysis for US car manufacturer perspective. Give it, like, you can see the level of detail I'm getting to my question. You can see the level of detail. It's like crazy detailed. It's like a whole new research just by that last point. And guess what? We're getting some tables. So we're getting the impact by country. And if you notice, when we went to Gemini and Perplexity, we didn't get, again, this level of depth in the information. We got short-term and long-term impact as I asked in the prompt, but nothing even close to this. Here you have at least some context to read, and then you have the sources right within the table. Wow, this is super impressive. Okay, Mexico, Canada, China, and then impact by industries. So they kept the tables until the end. And then there's a summary, just telling us about what is done. This is honestly super good. It's better than what I expected. This is my first time, by the way, using deep research in OpenAI, at least for something that I spent an effort crafting a prompt for. I did it like once for something for YouTube, not something like this. And it's super impressive. I never give 10s out of 10s. I think that's silly, but I'm leaning to give this a 9 out of 10. I think this is a solid 9 out of 10. I mean, again, there's a curve on my rating in my mind, the way I do it. Unless something comes and it's much better than this is a solid 9 out of 10. So let's go to the last one, which is Grok. So here it says it's completed. It did it in 1 minute. So remember, the longest one by far is OpenAI. After that, it was Gemini. I don't know how much it took. I think it took like a couple of minutes, 3 minutes max. OpenAI took 5 minutes. Grok took 1 minute. and Perplexity, like, it was seconds in my opinion. I didn't, it doesn't say, but I think it was seconds. It's less than a minute. Okay, so it went through 68 web pages. So here it's giving the key points, it's giving an overview, economic implications, industry specific impact, special case, car manufacturers. It just jumped to the special case, okay? Survey notes, so it's giving the historical context, and then economic impact on each country, industry specific effects, macroeconomic indicators, okay? Supply chain disruptions and business adaptation, political ramifications, research methodology, additional considerations, and it's done. So it's giving here some comparative summary table. It's good, actually. It's better than Perplexity, I would say. And then it's done. It's very shallow. Honestly, it's very, very shallow, definitely after looking at OpenAI. Actually, when it comes to Grok, I would give it a 4 out of 10. Just because Perplexity got the 5. I think Perplexity, either we bump Perplexity to 6, but I don't think so. I think Perplexity is 5. Compared to Perplexity, this is either 5 at best. At worst, this is a 4 out of 10. Gemini gets a good 7 out of 10 in my opinion. And then the OpenAI research, which is clearly the best, gets a 9 out of 10. So the way I would rank them is, number 1 is OpenAI, the best in deep research abilities. Number 2 is Gemini. Again, Gemini, we're using the 1.5. They didn't yet produce the 2.0 model deep research. That could be a good comparison later on against OpenAI. 3 is Perplexity, and 4, lastly, is Grok in terms of deep research. So this potentially is much longer than what I planned for, but I think it's a really interesting kind of comparison. Those are not even close, honestly, in terms of abilities. Maybe only Grok and Perplexity are somehow close, but the others are giants and they are way beyond Perplexity and Grok. For me, OpenAI beat them all. I hope that was interesting to you. And as I promised, I will have the link for the Google document with all the results in one place if you want to read word by word. Do not forget, if you do that, or if you watched and you have your own opinion, write me a comment in the comment section. And if you've seen value out of this comparison, tell me which model is your go-to model after this. And don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, it supports me a lot. Comment. I like to interact with the audience and the community that I'm building. And with this, thank you for giving me your time, and goodbye.
Subscribe to Daddy's channel. Give me the mic.